The weather forecast had called it the storm of the decade across Colorado. Meteorologists warned that the Rockies were about to be swallowed by the worst blizzard in 30 years. People in Aspen and the surrounding mountain towns were told to stay inside, stock supplies, and pray their power stayed on. But warnings mean nothing when you're 6 years old, terrified, and the only person standing between two babies and certain death. Her name was Lily Chen, and she was walking straight into the kind of Colorado storm seasoned mountaineers feared. The snow didn't just fall, it attacked. Wind tore down from the high ridges like it had teeth. Ice crystals slammed into her face, slicing tiny cuts across her cheeks. The mountain road beneath her was disappearing inch by inch as drifts swallowed the asphalt. Each gust threatened to knock her over, to rip the precious bundles from her frozen arms. Her thin canvas sneakers, already worn from months of hand-me-downs, had disintegrated somewhere near the 2nd mile. Now she walked barefoot on ice, her small feet beyond pain, drifting into a dangerous numbness she didn't understand. In her arms, wrapped in a motel blanket too thin for a Colorado winter and now soaked through with snow, twin babies barely 6 months old shifted weakly. Mia's cries had faded into soft whimpers an hour ago. James hadn't made a sound in even longer. That terrified Lily more than screaming ever could. "Just a little further," she whispered through cracked lips. Her voice barely carried over, the wind ripping down from the ridge. "Please, just a little more." Have you ever watched a child refuse to surrender when every instinct begs them to lie down and sleep? When the storm claws at them from every direction, and they still keep walking because someone smaller needs them? Stay with me. Because what happens when this tiny warrior reaches those iron gates in the mountains will shatter your heart wide open. And when a billionaire hears her knocking and discovers the truth behind her arrival, nothing about his life or theirs will ever be the same. 12 hours earlier, the Paradise Pines Motel sat quietly on the outskirts of Aspen, the mountains rising behind it like sleeping giants. The neon vacancy sign flickered in and out, casting weak pink light over the snow-crusted parking lot. Room 7 had been home for Lily Chen and her makeshift family for 8 months, ever since Vivian had scraped enough for the security deposit. Inside, the room smelled faintly of pine cleaner and old carpet, its walls covered with Lily's crayon drawings. Vivian had taped up to make it feel like home. Lily sat on the threadbare carpet, stacking wooden blocks while the twins napped in dresser drawers lined with towels. Vivian had found the drawers at a thrift store and insisted they worked just as good as bassinets. But today, something was wrong. Vivian sat hunched on the edge of the bed, her skin pale, her breaths shallow despite the cold air seeping through the thin windows. Her hands shook each time she tried to button her coat, like her body had suddenly aged a decade overnight. "Vivian?" Lily asked softly, the knot in her stomach tightening. She'd seen Vivian sick before, but this was different. "Are you sick again?" Vivian's eyes lifted. For the first time since Lily had known her, the woman who'd become her entire world looked afraid. Truly, deeply afraid. "Sweet girl," Vivian whispered, reaching out with trembling fingers to cup her cheek. "Come here. I need to tell you something important." Lily climbed into her arms, and Vivian pulled her close, holding her tighter than usual. Vivian smelled different today, not like her cheap lavender soap, but like medicine from the free clinic mixed with something else. Something final. "You remember the big house I showed you? The one on the hill with all the lights?" Vivian asked. Lily nodded. Months ago, they'd driven past it. A massive glass mansion perched high above Aspen Valley, glowing against the Colorado sunset like something from a fairy tale. "That's where angels live," Vivian had told her, and Lily had believed that. "If anything happens to me," Vivian said, her voice trembling with urgency, "I need you to take Mia and James there, to that house. The man who lives there, his name is Marcus Zhang. He's a good man, baby. He'll help you. He'll keep you safe." "Why would something happen?" Lily's voice pitched high with fear. "You're getting better," you said. "Lily." Vivian gripped her shoulders, her eyes glassy with tears. "If I don't wake up, if something happens, you take them to Marcus. Promise me." Lily's breathing hitched. "But you're coming with us, right? You have to come." Vivian pulled her into a fierce hug that shook with silent sobs. "I love you so much, sweet girl. You and Mia and James. You're my whole world." "I love you too," Lily whispered, confused and scared. "But Vivian, you're scaring me." "Don't be scared," Vivian whispered, forcing a brittle smile. "I'm just being silly, overworried, that's all." But 3 hours later, when Lily woke from a nap, Vivian lay on the motel floor. "Vivian," Lily scrambled down, shaking her shoulder. "Vivian, wake up." The woman's eyes fluttered half open. "Lily, the babies, take them." "I'll get help," Lily cried, bolting for the door. But Vivian's hand closed around her ankle with desperate strength. "No time," she gasped. "Promise me. Take them to Marcus. Promise." "I promise," Lily sobbed. "I promise." Vivian's grip loosened. Her chest rattled once, twice, then stilled. "Vivian," Lily shook her harder. "Vivian, please wake up, please." But the woman who'd rescued Lily from a gas station bathroom 2 years ago, who'd taught her to read and brushed her hair and told her she was loved, she was gone. The twins began to cry, not understanding death, only feeling the absence of warmth. And something inside Lily shifted. 6 years old one moment, suddenly older than the mountains the next. She couldn't help Vivian, but she could keep her promise. She pulled the thickest blanket from the bed, wrapped the twins as tightly as she could, stuffed 3 bottles of formula and a box of crackers into her coat pocket, and took Vivian's emergency contact card, the one she always carried. A man with kind eyes. Marcus Zhang. His Aspen address scrawled beneath. Then she pressed one last kiss to Vivian's forehead. "I'll keep them safe," she whispered. "I promise." She opened the motel door, and the Colorado blizzard swallowed her whole. The first mile wasn't so bad. The snow was heavy, but Lily could still make out patches of the winding mountain road, still recognize the broken fence she and Vivian used to climb through to pick wildflowers, still see the outline of the gas station where they'd once shared hot cocoa on a rare good day. She talked to the babies to keep herself from crying, her voice trembling as the storm thickened. "We're going to see the man in the glass castle," she told them, mimicking Vivian's soft voice. "He's nice. He'll help us." Vivian said so. By the second mile, the wind coming down from the Rockies shifted direction, hitting her full in the face. The snow no longer fell, it flew sideways. The world turned white. The road disappeared beneath her feet, buried under drifting layers that made each step twice as hard. The storm howled like a living thing, rattling the trees and bending branches in violent arcs. Lily kept walking, her breath burning in her chest, her fingers numb despite the thin mittens Vivian had mended dozens of times. The 3rd mile punished her. Her sneakers ripped apart completely. First the soles gave out, then the canvas tore away. Soon she walked barefoot on frozen ground, her skin raw and bleeding. Each step sent shock waves up her legs, but stopping wasn't an option. If she stopped, she'd sit. If she sat, she'd sleep. And if she slept, all 3 of them would die out there in the Colorado snow. Mia whimpered weakly. James made no sound at all. "Stay awake," Lily begged, her voice cracking. "Please stay awake." She stumbled, caught herself, fell again. This time she twisted her body so the babies wouldn't hit the ground, taking the full force of the fall on her ribs. Pain flared through her side, but she forced herself upright, gasping. The wind roared. The snow blinded. Her legs trembled so hard she could barely lift them. But every time she wanted to collapse, she imagined Vivian lying on that motel floor. She imagined the twins' blue-tinged lips. She imagined failing them. And so she walked. 1 foot, then the other again. Don't think, just move. Somewhere near the 4th mile, the world narrowed to a tunnel of white. Lily couldn't see her own hands, much less the road. Her breath rattled, her vision blurred. The storm swallowed sound and light until the only things she felt were cold, fear, and the tiny weight of the babies she refused to drop. She whispered into the wind, "Please, please let us make it." The wind didn't answer. But ahead, through the swirling white, something dark appeared. A shape, a structure. Lily blinked, not trusting her eyes at first. But it didn't disappear. Slowly, it sharpened into towering iron gates framed by stone pillars that rose like guardians out of the blizzard. She had seen this place once the mansion perched high above Aspen Valley, a house of glass and light built into the mountainside. Vivian had pointed at it from the old pickup truck as they drove by months ago. "That's where dreams live," she'd said with a soft smile. "Some people call it the Zhang estate. I call it a miracle waiting to happen." Lily dragged herself forward until she reached the gates. They were closed, but not locked. The driveway beyond wound steeply upward, vanishing into a wall of white. The mansion's lights glowed faintly at the top, blurred by the storm. "We made it," Lily sobbed, but the joy collapsed under the weight of her body's exhaustion. Her feet were bleeding, her arms felt like stone. She couldn't feel the babies anymore, not their warmth, not their breathing. Panic clawed at her. "We're here," she whispered again, more desperately. "Don't leave me now." The driveway seemed endless. Each step up the icy slope took everything she had left. She fell again and again, each time dragging herself upright with sheer will. The cold gnawed into her chest, into her bones. Her breath came out in ragged bursts that barely counted as breathing. 10 steps from the door, her vision blurred again. 5 steps from the door, her knees buckled. She collapsed on the last step, barely managing to lift one frozen hand. With all her remaining strength, she slammed her fist against the towering wooden door. Once, twice, 3 times. Then darkness swallowed her. Inside the Zhang estate, Marcus Zhang was pouring himself a drink. The storm battered the glass walls of his mansion, obscuring the sweeping Colorado mountains that usually brought him a quiet sense of peace. He'd grown up in those mountains, back when his family scraped by in a tiny cabin near Glenwood Springs. His parents had worked sunrise to midnight to keep food on the table. He'd vowed to give them a better life only to lose both of them in a car accident 10 years earlier. Then his younger sister, May, had died suddenly 2 years after that. The grief had broken something inside him. Since then, wealth had replaced warmth. Work had replaced family. Silence had replaced love. His housekeeper had left hours earlier, warning him the storm outside was the kind that swallowed travelers whole. He'd waved her off, insisting he'd be fine alone. But then he heard it, a faint, unnatural sound beneath the howling wind. A thud. No, a knock. Marcus froze mid-step. No one would climb his mountain during a Colorado blizzard. No one could. But the sound came again. He set down his glass, strode toward the door, and swung it open. And the storm exploded inside, carrying with it the sight that would haunt him forever. A tiny, half-frozen girl collapsed on his doorstep, her hair stiff with ice, her lips blue, her bare feet bloody. And in her arms 2 unmoving infants wrapped in a motel blanket soaked through with snow. For one horrifying moment, Marcus thought they were dead. Then the girl's eyelid flickered. Adrenaline slammed through him. He dropped to his knees, scooping all 3 children into his arms with military precision he hadn't used in years. His expensive suit was instantly soaked, but he didn't care. He rushed them inside, kicked the door shut against the storm, and laid them before the roaring fire in his great room. "Jesus," he whispered. "What happened to you?" The girl stirred weakly, her voice faint. "Vivian, said to find you." Marcus's blood turned to ice. He knew that name. But there was no time. The babies weren't breathing right. The girl's skin was dangerously cold. He shouted for help out of instinct, forgetting he was alone on the mountainside. He grabbed every blanket he could find, stripped off his jacket to wrap around the girl, placed the babies near the fire, but not too close, and called 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher told him the roads were impassable. They couldn't reach him until morning. So Marcus did what he'd been trained to do years ago in a different kind of battlefield. He kept them alive. Slow warming, vitals, breathing, gentle stimulation, blankets, bottles, vigilance. By the time his housekeeper returned in a panic, the twins were beginning to stir. Lily was drifting in and out of consciousness, and Marcus was kneeling beside them, trembling not from cold, but from the dawning realization that this wasn't random. It was fate. It was connection. It was a storm-delivered miracle he didn't yet understand. Then he found the hospital bracelets in the blanket. And the note. Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry. These are Mia and James. They're 6 months old, and they're yours. Everything inside him shifted. The storm outside howled on, but the one inside Marcus had only just begun. Marcus stared at the note, his vision blurring as the words burned into him. Yours. They're yours. He looked at the babies, at Mia's tiny fingers curled against her cheek, at James's faint rise and fall of breath, and the shock twisted into something deeper. Recognition. A truth he had always sensed, but never imagined. 8 years ago, after May's funeral, he and Vivian had shared a night of grief and comfort and blurred decisions. She had disappeared 3 weeks later, leaving behind no explanation, no forwarding address, no trace at all. He'd searched at first, called, emailed, even hired a private investigator, but eventually convinced himself she wanted distance, that it was a mistake best left in the past. But Vivian had never been a mistake, and the proof of that was lying in his great room, bundled in blankets, fighting for life. The girl Lily stirred again, her voice a hoarse whisper. The babies, are they okay? Marcus knelt beside her. They're alive because of you. What's your name? Lily Chen. Her lips trembled. Vivian said, take them to Marcus. Said you'd help. How did you walk here in this storm? His voice cracked. How far did you come? I don't know, she whispered. Long way. My shoes broke. It was cold, but I promised Vivian. Marcus swallowed a surge of emotion that threatened to break him. This tiny girl had walked miles through a Colorado blizzard alone, barefoot carrying 2 infants he hadn't known existed. Her determination was a force of nature. Her survival was a miracle. His housekeeper, Victoria, returned moments later, breathless and horrified. Dear Lord, she gasped, rushing to help. What happened? Mr. Zhang, who are these children? I don't know. Not yet. He lifted the note again. But I'm about to. Victoria helped prepare warm bottles and blankets as Marcus continued stabilizing the children. The fire crackled. The storm roared outside. But inside, something fragile and sacred unfolded. Life slowly returned to the twins' small bodies. Color crept into their cheeks. Their tiny chest movements steadied. Mia opened her eyes first, an impossible shade of green that made Marcus's breath catch. She looked at him with a curious intensity, her tiny fist wrapping around his finger. The warmth of her touch shattered something inside him. James woke next, fussier, his cries weak but alive. Marcus lifted him gently, supporting his head with experienced hands he didn't remember learning. The baby's face relaxed against his chest, and Marcus felt a swell of fierce protectiveness, startling and immediate. He didn't understand what was happening. He didn't understand the storm that had delivered these children into his life. But he knew one thing with absolute clarity. He would not let anything happen to them. Not now. Not ever. When the children had regained enough warmth, Marcus finally allowed himself to unfold the rest of the note. Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry. These are Mia and James. They're 6 months old, and they're yours. Vivian's handwriting wavered in places, the ink slightly smudged as if she'd written it through pain. She confessed everything why she hadn't told him sooner, how she'd hidden her pregnancy out of shame and fear, how she'd chosen to raise them alone, how she'd fought her illness longer than anyone expected. And she wrote about Lily, the girl who had been abandoned at a gas station, the child Vivian had rescued, loved, and adopted, a child she now begged him to protect. "Please take her too," the letter ended. "Don't let the system separate them. She is their sister in every way that matters." Marcus pressed the paper to his chest, grief slamming into him with the weight of the mountains outside. "Why didn't you call me?" he whispered into the quiet room. "Why did you face this alone?" Victoria put a gentle hand on his shoulder. "She trusted you even at the end, Mr. Zhang. She sent them to you. That says everything." The storm raged into the night, trapping them on the mountainside. Marcus and Victoria worked tirelessly to keep the children stable. They fed the twins in small intervals, rubbed warmth back into Lily's frozen fingers and toes, and monitored their breathing. Hours passed. Eventually, the worst of the blizzard eased, but the ambulance still couldn't reach them until dawn. Marcus didn't sleep. He stayed on the floor beside the couch where Lily rested, his attention divided between her and the twins. Every small movement, every shift of breath felt precious, fragile, terrifying. Near dawn, Lily opened her eyes fully for the first time. She looked around the room, taking in the warm fire, the soft blankets, the glass walls that overlooked the snow-covered peaks. "Is this the Angel House?" she whispered. Marcus's throat tightened. "Something like that. Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart," he said softly. "You're safe now." Her eyes drifted to the twins sleeping near the fire. "Can I see them?" "Of course." He carried her closer. She reached out with trembling fingers and brushed Mia's cheek. The baby stirred, turning toward her as if recognizing her. "I didn't let go," Lily whispered. "I didn't stop walking." "No," Marcus said, voice thick. "You didn't. You saved them." When the ambulance finally arrived, its sirens muted by thick snow, Marcus refused to let the paramedics take the children without him. They were no longer strangers. They were his responsibility. They were blood. They were family, whether the law recognized it yet or not. At the hospital in Aspen, chaos resumed. Doctors assessed the twins' hypothermia. Nurses treated Lily's frostbitten feet. Social workers were alerted. Legal processes were triggered. Questions flew faster than Marcus could answer. But one question from a doctor hit him hardest. "Are you the father?" "I am," he said, for the first time without hesitation. And that was the moment the fight for his children truly began. Child Protective Services intervened like a winter wind, unavoidable, chilling, and bound by rules Marcus had never needed to navigate. "We need documentation," they insisted. Birth certificates, custody papers, proof. Marcus had none, but he had determination fueled by grief, guilt, and a fierce, growing love. He made 3 calls. His lawyer, a private investigator, and the county morgue where Vivian's body had been taken. Every call hurt, every answer carved deeper into his chest. But he kept going because stopping meant losing them. Lily watched everything with wide, frightened eyes. When Marcus finally returned to her room, she asked in a trembling voice, "Are they going to take us away?" He sat beside her, took her hand gently in his. "No," he said, "I won't let that happen. All 3 of you stay together. With me. You promise?" He squeezed her hand. "I promise." For the first time since the storm, Lily allowed herself to breathe. Meanwhile, the twins recovered with astonishing resilience. Their young bodies responded quickly to treatment, and within 24 hours they were stable, hydrated, warm, and according to one amused nurse, very opinionated about bottles. Lily's frostbite, though painful, was treatable. She would walk again. She would run. She would grow. She would live a life Vivian must have dreamed for her. But every system has rules, and the state of Colorado was no exception. CPS launched a formal review. Temporary foster placement was floated. Marcus's blood ran cold at the thought. He stood his ground. "I'm their father, and I will prove it." And so began the fight of his life. one that would reveal not just the truth of his bloodline but the depth of his heart. For the next 2 days, the hospital became a battleground of paperwork, interviews, and relentless determination. Marcus barely slept. He coordinated legal documents, accelerated paternity testing, and tracked down every scrap of evidence Vivian had left behind. His lawyer, Richard Chen, arrived within hours and began unraveling the legal knots. The private investigator uncovered Vivian's medical records, financial statements, adoption papers for Lily, and hospital documentation confirming the twins' birth. The hospital social worker, Jennifer Morrison, arrived on the second morning, a woman in her 40s with steady eyes and the air of someone who had seen too many broken families to take anything lightly. She introduced herself calmly. "I'm here to determine what's best for the children." Marcus stood taller, even though exhaustion weighed on him like lead. "What's best is for them to stay together." "That's not always possible," she replied, "especially when biological and non-biological children are involved." "Lily is their sister," Marcus said firmly. "Vivian raised them as a family. They stay a family." "We'll see," Jennifer said simply. Her questions were meticulous. His answers were unwavering. She asked about his background, his childhood, his loss of May, his work, why he lived alone on a mountain, whether he understood the responsibility he was taking on. At one point she asked, "Are you prepared to be a father to all three, not just the two who share your DNA?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "Yes. They came here together. They stay together. I won't let them be separated." Later, she interviewed Lily. The girl sat stiffly on the hospital bed, her bandaged feet propped on pillows. She held Mia's pacifier in one hand like a talisman. "Lily," Jennifer began gently, "can you tell me what happened at the motel?" Lily's eyes dropped to her lap. Vivian fell. She wouldn't wake up. "I'm so sorry you saw that," Jennifer said softly. "How did you know where to go?" "Vivian showed me the big glass house," Lily whispered. "She said Marcus would take care of us. She said he was good. She made me promise." "And do you feel safe with him?" Jennifer asked. Lily hesitated for the first time since arriving at the hospital, not out of doubt, but out of fear of saying the wrong thing. "He stayed with us," she finally whispered, "all night. He held the babies like they matter, and he looked at me like I'm real." Jennifer blinked, taken aback by the raw honesty. "Would you want to stay with him?" Lily swallowed hard. "I want to stay with Mia and James. And he wants us. So, yes." When the interview ended, Jennifer stepped into the hallway where Marcus waited. For the first time, her expression had softened. "She trusts you," she said quietly. "That matters more than you know." The next breakthrough came when the paternity test results arrived. Richard appeared with the envelope, his expression unreadable. Marcus tore it open with trembling hands. 99.9%. He closed his eyes. Relief, grief, and fierce protectiveness collided within him like a storm all its own. "They're mine," he whispered. "They really are." Richard exhaled. "This strengthens your case significantly." Jennifer reviewed the results and nodded. "This confirms biological paternity. Now we address custody." Her final evaluation took place that afternoon. She walked through the hospital rooms, observing interactions, the way Mia and James quieted when Marcus picked them up, the way Lily watched him with cautious hope, the way he instinctively checked their blankets, their bottles, their breathing without even realizing he was doing it. After hours of deliberation, she returned with her decision. "Mr. Zhang," she said, folding her hands over her tablet, "I am granting you temporary custody of all three children, pending a 6-month review period." Lily gasped. Mia made a happy cooing noise. James sneezed. Marcus absorbed her words slowly, like a man who had been holding his breath for days. "All three?" "Yes," Jennifer confirmed. "I believe in keeping siblings together whenever possible. And you have demonstrated commitment, resources, and more importantly, genuine care." She paused, lowering her voice. "But understand this, Temporary custody is not the same as adoption. You'll be monitored, frequent check-ins, parenting classes, a home study. If you fail to meet any requirement, this custody can be revoked. I understand, Marcus whispered, but his voice steadied. I won't fail them. Jennifer nodded. Then let's get them home. The drive back to the mountains was a quiet miracle. The sun reflected off the snow-covered peaks, lighting the Rockies in shimmering silver. Aspen Valley stretched below them, a place that had once represented solitude but now held the promise of family. Lily sat in the back seat, between the twins' car seats, adjusting pacifiers and humming lullabies Vivian had taught her. You okay? Marcus asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She nodded shyly. It's warm, and they're safe. Her voice softened. I like safe. When they arrived at the mansion, Lily stared at it with awe she hadn't been able to feel in the blizzard. Sunlight glinted off the glass walls, turning the structure into a glowing citadel. The long driveway was clear now, carved through the snow by workers Marcus had hired earlier that morning. The cold bit the air, but it didn't feel threatening anymore. It simply felt like Colorado, wild, immense, beautiful. Victoria greeted them at the door, emotional and relieved. Welcome home, she whispered to Lily. You three deserve this. Inside, the mansion had transformed. Victoria had turned 2 guest rooms into nurseries, cribs, soft blankets, mobiles that spun slowly in pastel colors. Another room had become Lily's room, not just a temporary space, but her room, a real bed, a bookshelf full of stories, a window seat overlooking the mountains she'd survived. Lily stepped inside slowly. Her voice cracked. This is mine? All yours, Marcus said. She touched the blanket, the shelf, the soft lamp shaped like a fox. Tears filled her eyes. I've never had a room. Marcus crouched beside her. You do now, and no one is taking you away from it. That night was chaos and comfort woven together. The twins cried at different intervals. Bottles spilled, diapers leaked. Lily needed help reaching the bathroom because her feet still hurt. Marcus stumbled through it all clumsy, exhausted, but determined. At 3 a.m., a soft voice drifted down the hall. Dad? He turned. Lily stood there, leaning on the doorframe. Is it okay if I call you that? She asked. Marcus felt something inside him break and heal all at once. Yes, he whispered. If you want to. I do. Then I'm honored. Lily smiled a small, sleepy, real smile. Good night, Dad. Good night, sweetheart. Months passed. Slowly, the mansion softened. It became less a fortress of glass and more a home built of laughter and learning. Lily's feet healed. Her nightmares grew less frequent. She began reading confidently, playing soccer, drawing pictures of her family, every drawing with 4 figures now, never 3. The twins grew quickly. Mia's fierce personality revealed itself early. She laughed loudly, cried louder, and adored climbing everything she wasn't supposed to. James was quieter, observant, always holding something soft in his hands. They giggled together. They fought. They clung to Lily like she was their anchor, and she was. Jennifer's monthly check-ins showed progress. So did therapy notes. So did every warm moment Marcus didn't realize she was quietly documenting. At month 5, a package arrived from a Denver law office. Inside was a USB drive and a letter from Vivian's attorney. It contained her recorded message, the one she'd made knowing she wouldn't live to deliver it. Marcus waited until the twins were asleep, and Lily was curled on the couch beside him before pressing play. Vivian appeared on the screen, thin, tired, but smiling. Her voice shook at times, but her love never wavered. She spoke to Marcus, to Lily, to the twins. She spoke of regrets, hopes, apologies, and instructions. She spoke of love, the kind that survives storms and sickness and death. Lily cried quietly. Marcus held her close. When the video ended, the room felt full, not of sadness, but of presence. Vivian had given them her final gift: clarity, connection, and closure. By month 6, Jennifer returned for her last evaluation. She found a home filled with noise and joy. She watched Marcus burn pancakes while Lily rescued them. She watched Mia refuse her socks. She watched James insist on carrying a stuffed bear that was twice his size. She watched a man who had once lived alone become the center of a chaotic, vibrant world that loved him fiercely. That afternoon, she delivered her verdict. "Permanent custody granted," she said. "All 3 children." Lily burst into tears. Mia clapped. James sneezed. Marcus exhaled a breath he felt like he'd been holding for months. "Thank you," he whispered. "You earned it," Jennifer replied. And just like that, legally, officially, irrevocably, they were a family. The moment the paperwork was signed, something in the house shifted. Not physically, but in the way the air felt. Lighter, warmer, certain. For months, everything had been temporary, conditional, monitored, reviewed. Now it was permanent. Now it was real. Now they were bound not by emergency or tragedy, but by choice. Life found a rhythm after that. A beautiful, messy, Colorado kind of rhythm. Morning sunlight spilled across the Rockies through the glass walls as the twins chased each other in superhero capes, their giggles echoing through the once silent mansion. Lily helped them build towers out of blocks, towers that always collapsed in spectacular fashion because James sneezed too hard or Mia knocked them over on purpose. Marcus learned how to make French toast without burning it, how to braid Lily's hair, sort of, and how to distinguish between Mia's "I'm hungry" cry and her "I'm definitely doing something I shouldn't be doing" cry. His days, once filled with board meetings and silence, now overflowed with spilled juice, tiny socks, and bedtime stories. And he wouldn't trade a second of it. The housekeeper, Victoria, often smiled to herself as she watched him kneel on the floor helping Lily with homework or chase the twins down the hallway while pretending to be a dragon. "I've never seen you laugh like this," she told him once. "I've never had this to laugh about," he'd replied. 3 years passed in a blur of growing and healing. The snowstorms came and went, gentler now that they faced them together. Lily turned 10 in the spring, her smile stronger, her shoulders lighter. She had friends, hobbies, dreams. She loved reading fantasy books, painting the mountains outside her window, and teaching Mia and James the lullabies Vivian once sang. The limp from her frostbite faded almost entirely with physical therapy, though she still walked carefully in winter. Marcus found himself watching her sometimes, marveling at the resilience wrapped in such a small, gentle form. Every time she caught him staring, she'd grin and say, "What?" And he'd say, "Nothing," even though inside he felt humbled by how much she'd overcome. On the morning of her 10th birthday, Aspen Valley was washed in soft gold sunlight. The snow had melted from the driveway early that year, leaving behind patches of bright green grass and the crisp scent of pine. The twins, now 3.5, greeted her with a chorus of chaotic excitement. "Lily, Lily, it's your birthday. We got you something. It's a surprise." Mia shoved a poorly wrapped gift into her hands, while James attempted to balance a cupcake on her head. Lily laughed, a sound that filled the whole house with something bright and familiar. "You guys didn't have to get me anything," she teased. "It was our idea," Mia declared proudly. "And I wrapped it," James added, even though it was obvious Mia had. Inside was a handmade bracelet, plastic beads in rainbow colors spelling out family in slightly crooked letters. Lily hugged them both tightly. "It's perfect," she whispered. Later, they held a little party in the backyard. The mountains towered above them, silent and timeless, their slopes still dusted with late-season snow. Friends from school arrived. Victoria cooked far too much food. The twins tried to eat cake with their hands, and Marcus, for the first time in years, felt entirely, unshakably whole. That evening, after the guests left and the sky turned lavender over the Rockies, Lily wandered outside to where Marcus stood watching the sun dip behind the ridges. "Dad?" she said, stepping beside him. "Yes?" She looked out at the horizon. Do you think Vivian sees us? He followed her gaze. The mountains stretched endlessly, ancient and powerful, the same peaks Lily had walked beneath that night, the same peaks that had nearly taken her and the twins, but instead guided them toward a future no one could have predicted. I think she does, he said. I think she's been with us the whole time. Lily nodded. I hope she knows we're okay now. She does, Marcus said softly. You made it through the hardest storm of your life, and you brought us with you. Lily leaned her head against his arm. Sometimes I still remember the cold, the wind. I remember being scared. I remember thinking I might fall down and never get up. And yet you got up, Marcus said. Again and again. She looked up at him. Do you think other kids have storms like that? Not outside, but inside. All the time, he said. Everyone has storms. Some are just invisible. What do? She asked. They walk, he said, and hope someone opens the door. Lily thought about that for a moment, then nodded. I'm glad you opened yours. He turned to her, his voice thick with emotion. Lily, you saved them. You saved yourself. You saved me. You gave all of us a life we never would have had. Opening the door was the easy part. You did the impossible part. She smiled, soft, warm, full of truth. We did it together. The twins called for them from inside, their voices tangled with laughter and arguments about which bedtime story to choose. Lily straightened, wiping the corners of her eyes. Should we go in? Yes, Marcus said. They need us. They walked back inside, into a home glowing with the warm hum of lights, toys scattered across the floor, and the soft sound of family filling every corner. A home that once echoed with silence now pulsed with life and love. Marcus paused at the threshold, looking back once at the mountains, at the place where a storm had delivered 3 miracles to his door. He whispered into the cool Colorado air, not to be heard, but to be felt. I opened the door, Vivian, and I'm still opening it. Then he turned toward the children waiting for him, toward the noisy, beautiful life they had built together. Because families aren't always born. Sometimes they arrive barefoot, freezing, and barely breathing. Sometimes they knock only once, and everything changes the moment you choose to answer.